We're all trying to win at something. And my point is you're more likely to win at that if you treat your people right. Whether it's your spouse, whether it's your kids, whether it's your coaching soccer or rugby, whether you lead a team in the workplace, if you treat them right, then you're more likely to win.
Hello there and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. It's Rick Nusky here. I hope you're doing wonderfully well. I know I'm doing fantastically well. I love being your host. It's just such a pleasure, such a treat to be able to bring this show to you, and thank you for all of your support. Now on today's show, I'm pleased to welcome author, speaker and CEO of DX Learning Solutions, Mr. Alex Draper. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Thanks for having me, Rick.
Absolute pleasure to have you here. Now, you and I are going to be discussing building a people-first culture, creating high-trust work environments, and how to achieve these goals effectively through DX Learning Solutions and your book, Care to Win. So, lot to talk about today. Very, very exciting. So, where are you calling in from today?
Not so warm Chicago. We've got a polar vortex here right now and a lot of freezing people.
Yes, I can just imagine so. Well, what do you love about the place, apart from the cold weather?
Apart from the cold weather, I grew up in the UK, just south of Worcester. So the values of the Midwest is very similar to the middle of England. So I love the culture here. I love the values. I love the mindset of the Midwest and the great food. Chicago is one of the best cities for food in America.
Yeah, I can just imagine. What's your favorite?
I'm a sushi guy. So love sushi. I'm not a huge pizza fan. Apparently this is the place to come for pizza. But we got some great sushi.
It's funny like that, you know. I don't drink wine. I'm in a wine region. You don't eat pizza. You're in a pizza mecca. Hey, tell me, did you take care of that artwork by yourself on the back wall?
That is, as you can tell, very handy Alex work.
I love it.
I love it. That's my son. Soccer. In fact, there's a glass of wine there somewhere, which probably tells you I may drink a few too many glasses of wine. But no.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, look, in terms of family and things like that, do you have any pets?
I've got 2 kids. Does that count?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You have to wrangle them sometimes.
So, no, I got a 7-year-old and a 6-year-old, and my wife and I have agreed that's enough for now.
That's enough. Look, I've got 2 boys, so I know exactly what you're going through. Same age group, etc. They keep you busy, don't they?
They do. No time for pets.
I always think about what drives me, and it's always been, I thought I had a career path pretty well laid out before me until I had kids. Did they redefine what doing what you're doing means to you now?
That's a really good question. So DX, my company is 10 years old in April of this year, which is a milestone in its own right. I think same with you too, Rick.
Yes,
but
yes.
My kids are 7 and 6, so all they know is Alex, Daddy, and DX. I will say this, they have, when it comes to people first and making sure that now that I've had 2 kids, and when I started the business, the sort of mission and why we were doing what we're doing has been further defined as I've had kids, and now even more passionate to bring the people first mindset to the workplace and probably deeper into schools, just to make sure that my kids don't have to put up with some of the things that I've had to put up with in my work life and my schooling. And I just that's what I want. So yeah. I think it further heightened my want and desire to bring people first mindset and probably expand that beyond where I'd originally planned before I had kids.
Yeah, well, look, we're going to certainly talk a lot about your work, but let's, talking about kids, tell us about your childhood, where you grew up and what that was all like for you. Do you have any fond memories?
Fondest memory growing up. So I grew up in a village in the middle of nowhere called Aberley in the just south of Worcester in the UK. I think my favorite memory growing up was because it was a village of a couple of hundred people and maybe 10,000 sheep. It was very, very, very outdoorsy. So I just remember just growing up and going for walks and being super safe, and my parents just allowing me to go and play outside, go find a neighbor, go ride 5 miles to go see your neighbor. And
that's it.
We know you're going to come back. What can happen to you? Get run over by a cow?
I love it.
So I just remember the autonomy that I was given, and I loved it. And living in a big city, which is not so safe, Chicago. It's just I miss that. I miss that. I treasured it. I would love others to experience that. So that's my fondest memory.
Thank you very much for sharing. I always think about when I was growing up. The only thing that I had to do is make sure I was home by the time the street lights came on. That was it. It's a very different world we live in nowadays, isn't it? But,
yeah. Does it have to be? The answer to the question is, does it have to be? And I don't know the answer to that. That's not a return. I don't know. I know that parenting has changed, business has changed, life has changed, but the autonomy that we give our kids has changed, and each generation has a slightly different way of doing it. So do we have to be?
No, maybe not. Maybe not.
I don't know.
Well, look, I can tell that you've got lots of different books and that type of material behind you. I always think about, when I'm reading books, inspirational people. Who have you had in your life that has, I guess, helped shape the man you've become today, do you think?
My gut reaction to that question was, I'm blessed to have a brother and two sisters who are much older than I, who are all entrepreneurs in their own right. So I think my role models and mentors were my brothers and sisters growing up, and still to this day, because they're all entrepreneurs. They gave me that entrepreneurial spirit that I can pick up the phone and talk to them about any of my million problems that I have, and any of the listeners. If you're running a business, you're running a team, there's no shortage of problems. You got it. So they give me inspiration. If you're looking for someone in terms of like an author who gives me inspiration and context, there's a couple. A fellow Australian, Michael Bungee Steiner. I think one of my favorite books of all time was The Coaching Habit. Just a wonderful, simple method for how to ask questions and how to coach, and to stop giving advice and to start asking questions. And I've had the honor of privilege of meeting him a couple of times, and he definitely walks his talk. So that's one of my favorite authors outside of my my family.
Yeah, I love digging deep into this part of the call because we learn so much about you. So I do really appreciate it. Now, you look like you keep yourself in good condition. Do you have a daily routine? Tell us a little bit about how your day unfolds.
Daily routine. My alarm goes off at 5. Mostly I'm up at 4:50 because the brain just gets me up anyway.
Oh, you too.
You got it. Black coffee. I go work out for 45 minutes. It really gets me set up for the day. During that, I usually take about a page of notes of just stuff that comes into my brain as I'm working out, which is both a cool thing and a not so cool thing, but that's when my brain lights up.
Yes.
Come back, have breakfast, kids wake up, take them to school, and then work begins. Which, as a CEO and founder, what those days are. It could be a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Kids come back from school. I stop work about 5 o'clock. Dinner with my wife.
Yep.
Put the kids down. Maybe do an extra hour of work there at the very end. Sit down with my wife. Just talk about something, relax, and then bed. Rinse, repeat 5 times a week, and try not to work on weekends. That's something that's new for me. Starting a business. That's why all my kids know is business.
Yep.
But I've started to implement no working at weekends, or very little. If it's in the morning. So that's new for me, and therefore the weekends are explore, and have fun and be there for the kids. And my wonderful wife.
It's easy to burn the candle at both ends, isn't it? But we certainly have to have that time away. But do you get out and about, and what do you like to do in your local area? You're a sports fan? What?
I mean, most British people are. You have to be, right. So I love my soccer. So I coach my son's soccer. So I'm a local coach there.
Excellent.
I also just watch him. He's on a travel team, so I spend a lot of my time watching him play soccer and basketball. And Victoria, my daughter, she is in gymnastics, amazing at gymnastics. She's got her father's strength, so there's not much she can't do, which is amazing to watch. So I spend most of my time watching them.
Yeah.
And just trying to be there for them, which is most of our weekends. So that's I'm now living vicariously through them when it comes to sport.
Isn't it? It's that strange, isn't it? As soon as they come along, all of your thoughts and what you used to do tends to go out the window a little bit, doesn't it? But thank you again for sharing. Now, just before we click into the core of the call and start talking about DX Learning Solutions, when you get up and train in the morning, I used to struggle with the discipline component to that. What do you tell yourself of a morning if you don't feel like doing it, but you do it anyway?
What do I tell myself?
To do it.
I tell myself the consequence of not doing it. If you don't do it, the day's going to drag. You're going to regret it, and the pain is worth the long term. The short term pain is far worse, far better than the long term pain. So it's just I tell myself the consequences of not doing it.
That's great feedback. Now, tell me, how did DX Learning Solutions come about for you? Tell us the journey. Where was the genesis of it all?
So we're 10 years old in April. I remember walking down the street in Chicago, Michigan Avenue, and just 11 years ago, telling my wife, not my then wife, my wife, something I pride myself on. Still married, even though we're 10 years into a business. I'm going to start my own business. We're getting married in 6 months, but it's going to be okay. The trigger for, and it was okay, just. The trigger for that was I was blessed to work for a management consulting company that brought me to America. I learned my trade there, but I just saw in the work that I was doing around more of the IQ material, like developing people's IQ and making them strategic and building the commercial acumen and all the what I would call the technical skills within leaders. What I saw and heard was it doesn't matter how much IQ you have, unless you know how to treat people right, you're gonna die an early death, and or send people to die an early death. Because I truly believe that a manager, a leader has more say in your health than your doctor or any other part of your life. Your direct boss really does hold your health in your hand and can send you home crying every day to your wife and kids or partner, or send you home with a big smile on your face. That's really down to one person and one person only, your boss. So I just realized there was this chasm and gap that we're doing all of this development and spending all this money on raising the IQ and intelligence of leaders, when in actual fact the one thing that matters more is how you treat people. And having grown up in a household where I was mistreated by my dad, and I had a few really bad bosses growing up, I know what it feels like to be mistreated, and I want to do something about that, and that's where DX was born.
Fantastic story. I tell you, it seems to be quite common, unfortunately, the poor boss syndrome, let's call it, for the lack of better ways to term it, and it can make your life a nightmare, can't it?
It does, and I've got a large friend group, and most of the conversations we have is around, well, my boss said this, my boss did that, and the misery that causes, and we have 4,000 weekends. That's it. Your life is over before you know it, and you shouldn't have to spend any one of those 4,000 weekends having to worry about your boss, having to worry about coming back to work on Monday. Life's too short to have to worry about that. But to your point, there's so many bad bosses, there's so much poor leadership, that more often than not, this has to be the truth, which is why it's my passion. What gets me out of the bed is trying to try and reduce the toxicity within the workplace and reduce the amount of bad bosses out there.
You talked about IQ, and I'm wondering about EQ, and what are the differences between the two, and how are they interrelated?
Yeah, we have a saying at DX: IQ gets you in the door, and EQ gets you promoted. So IQ is your intelligence, right? 2 + 2 is 4.
Mm-hmm.
I got that one. I got that one right.
You pulled that one out. Don't worry,
you can see how intelligent I am. So intelligence, of course, is your intelligence, to which you measure which is measurable, of course.
Mm-hmm.
EQ is your emotional intelligence. So whereas IQ is how you think and how you make decisions, then EQ is more about how you make decisions with people and how you think about people and how you treat people. Like anything, like businesses, most of the people listening here either run a business, lead a business, or a leader within a business. For me, business and humans need to get on, period. Like you can't just run a business and run your people into the ground, because at some point they're going to revolt and treat your customers badly. And if you treat your customers badly, well, then you're going to lose revenue. And at some point, the writing's on the wall, and you can't just treat humans amazingly and not run your business well, because then you're going to go bankrupt. So these two things have to run in parallel. Business and humans have to get on. Same with IQ, EQ. It's a necessary. You can't just be emotionally intelligent all day and treat people right, have amazing interpersonal skills, and be the most self-aware human being in the world and not get any results. You got to get the results, and you get results, of course, by making good decisions, which is it's your IQ. So, but EQ is how you kind of treat people and how they perceive you, and IQ, of course, is more about the business side of things.
Business side of things, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, they work in unison. So business and humans, IQ and EQ, must work together.
You can't live with one without the other, as they say. Now, we've touched on your mission to eradicate workplace toxicity. What sort of forms? How does that manifest in the workplace? Is it a physical abuse? Is it verbal abuse, psychological abuse? How does that come about?
Our sort of definition of where toxicity comes from. Would you agree there's no flawless team in the world?
I would agree with that. We're humans.
Cool. Yeah, and where there's humans, there's errors, right? And even where there's AI, there's always errors. There's always errors, right? So there's always errors. We say those errors come from assumptions. So the brain's primary purpose is to keep you and I alive. In fact, my brain is designed to keep me alive, not you alive. And nothing's changed in 300,000 years. We just swapped over saber-toothed tigers for bosses. But same rules apply as I'm just a survivor.
Yeah.
There's lots of songs that we can sing around that one, especially around Rocky. But it's a survival machine. And we have a saying here at DX saying human beings are running advanced societal software technology on cave person hardware, the brain, and we're just not ready for this technology revolution. So in order to survive, what the brain's done is created thousands and thousands of heuristics. Heuristics are brain shortcuts. Brain shortcuts to make decisions really quickly, to judgments really quickly, to do things really quickly, to process around 11 to 60 million bits of information every second, depending on how much technology and how many screens you have open. I'm sure some of you right now have about 5 screens. You got me on this one, you on this one, your phone on this one, your email on this one, Teams on this one, and Facebook on that one. That's a lot of information we're having to download. So to do that, we've created shortcuts, heuristics. The negative effect of a heuristic is called a bias. There's about 188 biases. And it's these biases, which are basically just assumptions that we make in order to process the information as quickly as possible, that get in the way of trust building and and cause toxicity. For example, I would assume because of your accent that, hey, if I said, God, you sound like a Kiwi, you might have gone, no, I'm an Aussie. But unless that's my bias. So my bias and my assumptions coming out is you sound like a Kiwi, or many people say you're Australian, but actually, in fact, they're a Kiwi. Then these are assumptions that we're making. We're making these real rapid judgments. They tend to be wrong, by the way. And when we get them wrong, that's where that toxicity comes from. Because when you make assumptions about me or about the things I do or the way in which I do my work, and you treat me, you either mistreat me, unintentional. A lot of this is unintentional.
Yeah.
Unintentional. It's not most people. I always say I can't really wipe out assholes. There are, unfortunately.
There's always those with malicious intent, isn't there?
There you go.
Yeah.
I can't help for that, but I can help the unintentional consequences of how our brain works, and causes these toxic moments of just. We're making assumptions about people. We're not including people. We're not treating them how they want to be treated. Not because we're like you said, malicious, just because our brain is actually a very selfish, self-centered piece of machinery that's just trying to keep you alive. And if we don't work on that, then that's what happens. We have these big gaps between what people need and what they get, and their boss is just not meeting them where they're at, and that causes toxicity.
So do you think, given that, there's so much legislation around saying the wrong thing in workplaces now, that people are scared to actually have those raw conversations with their bosses in fear of, losing their income because they've got a family to support? Imagine living like that.
Yeah, and I think this is where my opinion, I'll offer it as such, is that corporations, businesses like mine, like yours and all your listeners, we have an obligation to do what our politicians cannot, and to create a safe place for people to work. We can do that. We can put up the boundaries. We can create the workplace values, the structure, to where people can feel safe to speak up and say what needs to be said, and create the right levels of clarity so that HR understands that within these boundaries, we can speak up. We can offer the truth. We can be honest. There is ways around that. It just means a lot of work up front to create that culture with the right values, the right set of behaviors, rewarding the right things, consequencing the wrong things. We can all do that, but that's a lot of upfront work needed to get there.
And so that sometimes is where the intermediary comes in, somebody like yourself and your team, to, I guess, almost mediate through training and learning. I'm wondering, what was your pioneer program? What was your first program that came out for DX Learning Solutions, and what are your others?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the very first experience, as we call them, was a 2-day intensive leadership development simulation designed to give people a good old dose of humble pie. If you think about for me, where toxicity manifests itself is with ego, and a fixed mindset and a lack of self-awareness. So we built this experience that one of the biggest challenges that we have in our industry is most people don't know that they need what they need. Most leaders, because of the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? One of those 188 biases is called the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect is the more competent you are, the least competent you are, because that's just your brain's telling you you're amazing, you're God's gift, and you don't need any of this stuff. So that's a trick the brain plays with you. The more confident you are, the more that drives the less competent you can be. So our job is to, in that particular program, it's the first one because I'm like, look, we've got to do something about this. We've got to put people through something where it triggers this humility. It triggers this mindset for, I am not there yet. And it triggers this, oh my gosh, I never knew this about myself. I thought I was amazing at providing strategy and envisioning things. And what I've learned is I'm not there yet, right? That's, for me, the growth mindset is that statement. I'm not there yet. A lot of us, too many of us go, I'm there, I'm awesome, I'm perfect. And that's the root of all ego. And ego is one of the biggest contributing factors to toxicity and bad leadership. So that was our first creation. It's a 2-day intensive. It's called the biggest social learning experience ever. And it's still my favorite program, of
powerful.
course. It is, and I think anything that reduces ego and improves humility is a good thing for the world. So that was our first ever experience, and still my favorite, and still 10 years later, still going strong.
I wonder if we could just explore it just momentarily. Do you ever have leaders who eat the humble pie, as you referred to, and then have an emotional touch with that, and I guess find a different person within?
Yeah,
transformational almost.
We've had tears numerous times, and it's those transformations, and more so the emails that we get 2 years later to say, and the ones that are, what's interesting is you have for me, I call it the 20-60-20 rule. 20% of people just have this mindset of learn, right? I'll read a book and I'll change. 60% of people can be motivated to learn and grow, and they're just not quite there yet, but can be. And then 20% of people just don't give a, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I can't change those 20%. What we try to focus on as a business is that 60% in the middle that can be motivated. And what's interesting when you think about those 60%, you get those that have that epiphany in the experience. Some cry and go, I can't believe I've been doing this to my team for the last 10 years. No one told me, because no one told you, because you unintentionally led a little bit. You led with that fear, and people won't speak up. And you've been hearing what I call the smokes and mirrors. You've been hearing the stuff that you want to hear, not the stuff that you need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So they have that epiphany, and then some don't have that epiphany, and like they're still like kicking and screaming, going, "Oh, I'm above this." And then 2 years later, you get the email saying, "You know what? I did need this, and thank you." So. But these are the notes, and I love what you just said, like the transformation. That's what we do. We're here to transform people, not everyone, but I was. You got it. Change one, change 1,000. If I can just change one person, then I'm a happy camper.
What a fantastic mission. I'm wondering, who is your ideal client? Is it small business, medium business, traditional bricks and mortar? Who is it?
So we never say we've just gone through the process of building our first ever go-to-market strategy. After 10 years, we're starting to do the stuff the business stuff.
Slow and steady wins the race.
There you go. The fact that we're still here. Well, I'm a big fan of what got you here won't get you there. The first 10 years of running a business is really learning and maturing and screwing up enough times that you know what to do right. So I've learned the hard way of not what to do. Unfortunately, I've lost a lot of people, lost a lot of money, but that makes you better. So I'm at the point where we're mature enough to be able to go, well, where are we going next? So to answer your question, I'm never going to say no. That's a problem of mine, right? If you're going to ask me, what do you do, Alex? I fix cultures. Most people don't know that the culture needs fixing, but that's an education that I bring to the table. If someone's got a cultural problem and they're trying to fix it, I'll fix it. But in terms of therefore people coming to me, I won't say no, but people, what we're looking to go towards and put our marketing efforts is, 1,000 to 5,000 people, because that's a good marketplace for us. They are organizations that don't want to spend millions on McKinsey or BCG.
Yep.
They know that they got some cultural problems and they want something boutiquey, and we call ourselves the Ferrari of our industry, right? We're small, we're boutiquey, we're customer intimate. You're going to get this unique experience, and we're going to make an impact. And I'll guarantee you that we're not going to stop until we've changed behavior and you've got the results you expect. So that's that sort of mid-cap range, but I'll never say no to business that come to me. But we're hunting for that type of mid-cap range.
Thank you again for sharing. I know that we've talked about experiences and things like that. I wonder. I think about the analogy of the bad apple in the barrel. With this being the case in a workplace, this transformational leadership and change management in general, what happens if you've got bad people in an organization? What happens then?
That's a fascinating question. We have a saying that says really the culture of any team is the worst behavior that you're willing to tolerate. And I think, having gone through this myself, that high-performing executive who got results but left a trail of disaster behind them in their shadow, like, what do you do with them? Like, they're getting the results, but man, the toxicity behind them it's like there's constant aftermath. So what do you clarity? So our whole platform is called Care to Win. So what are you trying to win at, and how do you get there? Is through your people. And C stands for clarity, A stands for autonomy, R stands for relationships, E stands for equity. So C, clarity. To answer your question, in the care world of those human skills, clarity is what the challenge, especially in small to medium-sized businesses. If you don't have your values articulated, the behaviors that sit beneath those values, and a performance management piece to that of rewarding the right behaviors and consequencing the bad behaviors, it's really hard to hold someone accountable if you're not quite clarity on what you're holding them accountable to. So unless you have, again, I'll call it a North Star, the right boundaries in place to know what bad behavior looks like, and then when it happens, to say, well, that's not in accordance to our SOPs when it comes to our culture. If you don't have that, then those bad toxic behaviors and the people that we tend to tolerate them because we don't have a benchmark. You've got to have a benchmark. And that's what those larger organizations do, is they have those values written down, they have the behaviors, they have performance management. It's a lot easier to really see bad behavior, number one, because you've got that benchmark. And number two, the process to do, what do you do with it? in small and mid-sized companies, we haven't got that process yet. And sometimes, therefore, that bad behavior is more tolerated than it needs to be.
Than it needs to be. I can't help but think about relationships and trust. You have a lot of these businesses that scale very quickly for some unknown reason. It could be a number of variables as to why they have succeeded, but many instances I've seen that they were one-person shows. Now they've onboarded a handful of people, and their trust issues not coming from their people, but from the leader themselves. Is that a big thing that you found?
Yeah,
lack of trust.
Does anything? I mean, let's just talk about the top most high performing team in the world, right? The Special Forces, whether it's the Australian Special Forces, SEALs, SAS. Nothing good happens on any Special Force team unless they have trust, right? And are they willing to tolerate someone that they're not going to let their wife hang out with? No, this whole unit is built on high trust, and in fact, there's a wonderful Simon Sinek did the research on this.
Simon Sinek,
yeah,
amazing.
He did a wonderful. He did for his book. I forget which book, but there's a video of it. It's wonderful, right? So you got on one side you got performance, on one axis, on the other axis you've got trust. It's interesting when he interviewed all the SEALs teams, he found out that the SEAL they prefer to have someone a little bit below the top performing, but have all the trust. Like they were willing to give up performance for more trust, because if you don't have my back and I got your back in the theater of war, that means death.
Yes.
And so similar in the workplace, it's same mechanics. I truly believe, and I'll stand by this, nothing good happens without high trust, period.
Great feedback. I wonder, when you walk into a new business, Alex, what do you know about it? You all you're seeing is a blank canvas, essentially, until you start talking with people. But what is the moment in time when you realize that a business either does have a people first culture or it doesn't? What's obvious to you?
Culture is a mirror of leadership, right? So DX is a mirror of me. Like it or not, I am the CEO. I'm the boss. Many leaders they just can't fathom the shadow that they leave in their wake. And I don't, just being a C-levels, just being a leader of any sort, wherever you are, just please, or anyone listening, if you're a people manager, if you're an entrepreneur, a leader, just know that the shadow that looms in your path, in your wake, probably looms a lot larger than what you think it is. So every decision that I make, everything's under the microscope. What I say, what I don't say, every email that I send, every email I don't send. The day that I come to work stressed, people are going, "Oh, why is Alex stressed?"
What's wrong?
The day I come excited. "Oh, what's happened?" It's just the nature of being a leader. So the culture of my team is a mirror of me, which means everything I say and do is under that microscope. So how to build that culture is through my action and through my behavior. And the more intentional I am doing it and building that trust, the more trust is felt. So for me, it starts at the very top. So if I'm looking at a company, I've got to interview the CEO. And when I sit down in front of that CEO and I ask them specific questions, I know if it's all smokes and mirror, or I know that if they care about their people beyond putting it on the annual shareholder report, but they actually do it, and I've found some and they do exist, then I'm like, this is it. But if you don't have a CEO who's people first, how can the rest of the organization be people first? Because they're not going to have the resources. They're not really going to have the authenticity to do it right, because the main boss doesn't care. So you've got to have a CEO who cares. You've got to have a people first CEO. And that means they have to put people first. They have one of the CEOs I worked with had the opportunity he had to let go of a business unit, 600 people. So instead of firing them all, he found place in the rest of the organization for those 600. Most CEOs who are results first would have fired those 600 without even clicking their fingers.
Without even thinking about it.
There you go.
I think about you carrying the can. You are the pulse of the business. It's funny. I think we're all interconnected somehow, and people's intuition, be it from a janitor upwards, they all can feel how a leader is feeling. I don't know if you agree with that. Would you believe that? Or
yeah,
just that intuitive sense?
Yep. I mean, we're human. I'll go back to what differentiates us from AI is our ability to emphasize with other human beings. And, basic mirror neurons, in the infirmary, when one child cries, they all cry. If I was to put a pinprick in my finger right now, you'd feel the same pain that I'd feel. Same with humans. You just get this gut instinct. It's our intuition, but that's the empathy that we're, as humans, what makes us so unique is that empathy. I just wish we'd demonstrate it more.
Show it. I wonder with your solutions, with your programs, you have an online component and an offline component. Do you do both?
We do synchronous and asynchronous leadership training. So the most of I'll go back to culture as a mirror of leadership. The culture of a team is a mirror of its leader. So we're always typically working with the people managers, either groups of them or intact teams, leadership teams. So most of our work is either synchronously with those leaders. Once you've gone through one of our experiences, there is asynchronous components to it where you're self-learning, looking at the repository, drawing information. But what we've learned over the years is in order to motivate human change, you've got to have this gut visceral reaction and this understanding that you're not there yet. So we leverage experiential learning to show people their blind spots. Because if you don't know, if you don't see, you don't touch those blind spots, you ain't going to change. So the synchronous part of our work, where we get in groups of leaders together or teams together, is probably the most important part. We can do that virtually or in person, but it has to be synchronous in order to get that brain to fire and go, I'm motivated to change. And I still haven't found a way in which you can get motivation for change without getting people to see themselves in the mirror and go, I've got these imperfections. And for me, the best way to do that is experiential learning, where they actually see it and touch it and feel it.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Now, tell me, when you wrote the book, what was, I guess, again, the genesis of that? Why did you write the book Care to Win?
So the content of the book was already out there. So we, unlike most build a book and then build the content and have this business that comes afterwards, the business was up and running. Care, which is clarity, autonomy, relationships, and equity. Not the cuddly type of care. It's the human skills to get the hard stuff done. That's why I say care to win. The winning is we're all trying to win at something. And my point is you're more likely to win at that if you treat your people right, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your kids, whether you're coaching soccer or rugby, whether you lead a team in the workplace. If you treat them right, which is care, then you're more likely to win. That's sort of the whole premise of the book. But I wrote the book just to get the message of care out to as many people as possible. And the book is really a manifestation of all the things I screwed up over the years, so that others don't have to. It's like I make mistakes so that you don't have to.
What do you mean you're not perfect?
I'm not there yet.
Not there yet.
I'm not there yet. Yeah. So it was just really to take what I've learned and understood and to distill it into something that anyone could read, because I'm not going to be able to touch millions of people. I want to keep my business small, boutique-y, and highly profitable.
Agile.
So that I can. You got it. Which means more than likely I might never come to Australia, but now someone in Australia could read my book and go, I can bring care. So it was to touch more people.
Absolutely. Well, look, I tell you what, I could draw you over here. We've got the best wines in the world, but that's another story. Now, how long did it take you to write the book?
4 years.
4 years. That's
4 years.
Overnight.
It was horrible.
You don't like writing? I don't like writing.
I actually really enjoyed it. It was very therapeutic. I just made a lot of mistakes. I mean, that's my life. It's just been mistakes. But unfortunately, my first publisher went bankrupt and led to some issues. And it was an ordeal. COVID happened, of course. There was all sorts going on. So, but happy with where it ended. Could I write one in less than 4 years next time? Probably. And that's a good thing. And I'm definitely already starting to think about book.
I was going to ask you about that. Is there something on the horizon? It sounds like there is.
There is. It's if book one was more just, well, what is care? Why does it matter? And what can you do to better care for those that you serve, whoever that is? Book two is more about the science and the data about the impact that you can have if you just raise clarity up by 5%. What would be the impact on your business if you did that? If it's more of the mechanics of how to, the impact of care. Because I think a lot of people, it's a very polarizing word. I've learned this the hard way, is there are some people who just don't care. I'm cool with that. But if I can now back care up with some science and some data, and debunk some of this people first stuff, like, who cares about people? Well, if you care about people and it impacts your bottom line, would that change your
perspective?
Exactly. And most CEOs would go, yeah, I'll come, I'll listen.
Well,
so book 2 will be the science.
More about that. Yeah. Well, it's funny because My Future Business got helpful people helping people under the subscript of the main logo. So it's always been about people. A business is just a byproduct of human relationships, isn't it? And I wonder if you had something. We have a lot of leaders, a lot of startup entrepreneurs, those who aspire to become leaders, listening to the show. If there's one little bit of one tidbit that you could give them to think about, what would you say to them right now?
Leave your ego at the door. And how you do that, again, the unintentional consequence, most of us just don't know that there's the ego shows up. And as a leader, it's really easy for it to show up because of the biases in the brain telling you to survive. It's telling you to speak more than others, where you should be listening more than others. It's telling you to take credit for that when you should be giving credit. It's telling you to talk as briefly as possible when people probably need a bit more vision. So your brain's playing tricks with you. I end the day every day with this question, which helps me with my own ego, because I have some, like you. I've got some imposter in there, and I've got some ego in there. I'm just human like all of us. I ask myself this question at the end of each day: would I follow me today? Because it helps me go, no, you know what? No, you're a bit of an asshole today. Okay, cool. So what would I do tomorrow to rectify that? So just, would you follow you? Is just a real simple question we can all ask ourselves at the end of the day, just to be reflective, to be curious, and be honest with yourself. Like, would you follow you? What did you do today that would draw people to you or send people away from you? Because remember, that's your job as a leader. You can either send people home with a smile on their face, or you can send them home miserable, and that's not right.
I tell you what, I would often wake up of a morning and looking at myself going, how can I be a better person today? So that's sage advice. Thank you so very much for sharing. Now, most importantly, out of all of this, you've spent, 10 years, almost 11 years, whatever it is, long time. How does it make you personally feel and react inside when you realize and see the transformation that the businesses and the people are going through from being part of your business, working with you? How does it make you feel?
I mean, you just light up, right? I save a lot of the letters. I got them all in the office downtown. I keep the emails. It warms me up to know that, again, that change one, change 1,000. If one person transforms and is less of an asshole, reduces that toxicity, people cares. I just know that over the course of 10, 20 years, the amount of people that one person's going to touch and is game changing. So I and my team, our faces just light up. The warmth you just feel the warmth of, wow, we made a difference.
Makes a hell of a lot of difference when you want to be able to do that and go for that. It's almost like a drug in and of itself. Alex, this has been a wonderful call. Now, when people want to get access to your book and they want to maybe connect with you to learn how you can help their business, where are they going to go to find these two things?
Go to so the book is called Care to Win, the 4 Leadership Habits to Build High-Performing Teams. There is a microsite for that. www.alex-draper.com.
Yes, I think it is.
Yep, good. I just had to remind myself of what that is. So that's one place. Follow me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I post every day.
Yep.
A lot of so it's Alex Draper DX. Find me on LinkedIn. If you're curious about the business itself, it's dx-learning.com.
Well, there you go. They are very easy links to provide you. And I will be doing exactly that below this post. No matter where you see the call, you're going to have those links back to one of two, if not both of those URLs to find the book and or DX Learning Solutions. And with that all being said, thank you so very much for joining me on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Rick. Enjoyed the conversation.